I'm back from my trip with a very late breakdown of this year's Bridal Banner. We have an Awakening theme for year 7, and you can get bridal alts for Flavia, Sairi, Anna, and a harmonic pairing of adult Tiki with young Tiki. Let's talk about what our new units can do and discuss general builds and playstyles. For this banner, Flavia is the 4-star focus unit. You can get her at 4-star and 5-star rarity. Bridal Flavia is a Sword Cavalier with 41 HP, 44 attack, 45 speed, 31 defense, and 18 resistance. She will have a nice speed super boon. Flavia's 4-star focus status is going to be her main attraction, since the very last banner gave us rearmed Fallen Chrom, who basically has the exact same stat spread. In theory, it should be cheaper to merge Flavia compared to Fallen Chrom, but he has his unique assist skill. At the very least, Flavia blows every non-5-star Sword Cavalier out of the water if you just want damage and speed. She will be a little squishy though, especially to anything magical. For old skills, Flavia has Harsh Command Plus and Attack and Defense Clash 3, only the second Attack and Defense Clash holder. She also has Rouse Attack and Speed 3, which is great if you want the new Alarm C skill, but you can also get it from Hans. Now, Flavia's inheritable sword is the Bridal Blade Plus, 14 might. If unit initiates or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants plus for all stats and inflict penalty on foe stats equal to 2 times their field buffs on those stats. This year's Bridal inheritable weapons come with the in-combat panic effect. If the enemy has plus 6 attack, Bridal Blade inflicts minus 12 attack to offset it. In terms of inheritable weapons, this is one of the few to affect all 4 stats. That's neat, but if the enemy does not have any field buffs, then this is just a plus for all stats weapon. Very bold move to put out another inheritable sword right after the second arcane sword released, and well, not really seeing why you should use this one besides visual flair. You can get some decent stat swings against full buffing teams, but you don't really get any other combative effects. Now in terms of potential, Bridal Flavia is basically immediately outgunned by rearmed Fallen Chrom due to his unique assist skill. She does keep open stats though, and luckily her best weapon comes from Chrom, who is still available to summon. For Bridal Blade Plus, it's a very okay weapon, but I would say the Pedophile Blade Plus is a better pure offensive weapon for seasonal inheritables. For Flavia's base kit, you can add a Flow Bisco to ensure she doubles tanks at the very least. You could go for a more defense stacking route with Attack and Defense Clash and Bridal Blade's in-combat panic, but you probably want a mixed phase Bisco at that point. Sadly, you should not use Bridal Blade with lulls, but you could go with something like Guard 4. Personally, I would use Flavia for pure offense. If you can get Arcane Devourer from Rearmed Chrom, then that gives her Slang, Breath type cooldown, 1 hit 40% DR, and no follow-up for outspeeding. That gives Flavia a ton of options to build around. You can upgrade to Alarm Attack and Speed to get access to Kanto 1 while running a combative beast skill like a Lull. You can run Gale Force with a near trace Kanto, or you can invest in Surge Sparrow for healing when proccing things like Luna. For speed battles, you can run Steel Speed 4, Attack and Speed Menace, or even Speed Smoke 4 for a slightly better mixed phase combat. If you cannot get Arcane Devourer, Florid Cane from Thief Fricker is interesting just to get Kanto from the weapon slot. Upfront Blade is another attack and speed boosting weapon. Flavia can also just run the Brave Swords or Fire Sweep Sword as well. Overall, Bridal Flavia should do okay if you can go on and give her the full investment treatment. She doesn't really have any free-to-play competition if you're looking for that high attack and speed. Next up is Bridal Sairi, who will be a Lance Flyer this time. Sairi will have 40 HP, 44 attack, 46 speed, 20 defense, and 26 resistance. She will have an attack super boon and is up there with Rearmed Ingrid as one of the highest attack and fastest Lance Flyers in terms of base stats. Defensively, she has a more balanced defensive spread to take on either damage type. For old skills, Sairi has Draconic Aura and Life and Death 4. She doesn't really benefit from Life and Death, it's flat stats, so maybe change that out. For her weapon, Sairi has the chon'sin Spring, 16 might lance that accelerates specials. If unit initiates or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant plus 5 to all stats, inflict speed and defense debuffs on the foe, reduce the first hit by 40%, and Sairi gets breath type cooldown reduction. For the speed and defense debuffs, these are equal to 25% of the foe's attack at start of combat, -8, with a max of -10 to both stats. To hit this max, the enemy needs 72 flat attack, and a modest 60 attack will still inflict a pretty sizable -7 speed and defense. chon'sin Spring is a pretty simple weapon, but Slang plus Breath type cooldown is always valuable on a flyer. The 40% damage reduction is going to be Sairi's main protection as well. Now Sairi brings a new C skill called Speed and Defense Rain Snap. Inflict -4 speed and defense on foes within 2 spaces during combat. At start of turn, if unit is within 2 spaces of an armored ally or a melee infantry ally, then grant +1 movement to the user and those allies. This effect will not trigger if the user is a dancer, so keep that in mind. As expected, Rain Snap is another tier for upgrade for Rain's 3 C skills, but is only inheritable by melee flyers. The debuff Rain stays at 2 spaces, but now the user gets bonus movement and can pass that along to armored and melee infantry as well. Very interesting C skill option. If you want extra movement, it's potentially more consistent than the Tempest skills, but you do need to be near the team and its specific ally types as well. In terms of buff and mobility support, Rain Snap may lose out to Guidance 4, which can be used on range flyers as well. The extra movement can be useful if you need to trek far distances or you have dancers though, and it could be good for teams who want to dive deep into enemy territory like with a Gale Force user. Bonus movement also synergizes with Kanto skills, so I think Rain Snap does have a place for a team. For Bridal Series, she's a pretty simple in terms of offensive units. She has good perks like Slaying, cooldown reduction, and DR, but you definitely want offense on the follow-up to double through follow-up denial. Flow Guard is excellent to avoid specials, but if you want Kanto, then Flow Near Trace is the best option. As mentioned, the through movement from Rain Snap will also benefit Near Trace Kanto, so I do think a Kanto skill in general is good for this. For Seiri's base kit, I don't think Life and Death 4 is very useful. No real point to drop her defense res, especially when there are higher stat boosting A skills. If you do want to run something like a Wings of Mercy team comp, then I would maybe take Attack and Speed Push 4 instead. To synergize with Rain Snap, Clash skills are fine, and you can run Draconic Aura, Luna, or Gale Force with the Desperation Sacred Seal if Seiri gets too hurt on the first fight. With chon'sin Spring, she can proc 3 cooldown specials in 2 hits, which is pretty nice. If you prefer healing, Surge Sparrow is great with all the cooldown perks available, and you could stack damage reduction with Guard Bearing 4, which will add more speed and defense debuffs. Seiri will be able to mask a good amount of speed through her weapons debuffs, speed and defense Rain Snap, and any other stat boosting skills. Overall, nothing too crazy here, but Seiri has a couple build options. You can build around her cooldown reduction, her speed, and definitely try to add Kanto or offensive follow-up to her kit in some way. Some kind of no-guard skill for a flyer would be nice if that were ever to happen in the future. Next up is Bridal Anna, and this is Awakening Anna trying to make some money this time. She'll be a green bow cavalier. A red bow cav still does not exist. Now for stats, Anna has 38 HP, 43 attack, 46 speed, 22 defense, and 25 resistance. Attack super boon, and right there with Spring Birdie for one of the fastest bow cavs around. Anna is pretty much a glass cannon, but she does actually bring a couple defensive tools to take a hit. One of those tools is Remote Sparrow for 30% damage reduction, and it then brings Luna and Steel Defense 4 for maximum damage output. She also has Colorless Feud 3 in case you are having trouble with a certain healer who can revive her allies. At least you can get some other nice skills if you just want that for fodder. Now for her weapon, Anna has the Heartbroker Bow, 14 might, specials, and Kanto Ally 2, which is a warp Kanto from last year's Thief Banner. If Anna initiates or is within 2 spaces of an ally, she gets bonus stats, on hit true damage equal to 50% speed, and offensive no follow-up. The stat boost is equal to 5 plus the number of dragonflies you've given Anna. This will max out at plus 10 to all stats total, and you only need 5 dragonflies to get there. Obviously, if you want to use Anna, you gotta pay her fee. Plus 10 attack and speed is great, but plus 10 defense and res with Remote Sparrow's 30% DR is appreciated. She won't be a tank, but that's more damage she can tank. As for Warp Kanto Ally 2, as a refresher, this is the standard warp effect. Anna can warp to adjacent spaces next to allies within 2 spaces. It requires nearby allies to be useful, but it can allow Anna to attack and retreat a pretty far distance. For example, if you can set it up, she can attack, then warp behind a bulwark user who can then protect her from the frontal attacks. You can take this further with a certain C skill. Before we discuss that, Anna's general playstyle is still that of an offensive initiator bow cav. She has offensive no follow-up to double consistently, and Steel Defense 4 just adds more pain, especially if you're going to go for Deadeye. You could run it with Attack and Defense Menace to get more defense debuffs, which would activate Guard. However, you could also swap to Wind or Water Sweep to avoid counterattacks while still doubling. For Sacred Seals, any attack and speed booster is fine, but Heavy Blade can be used to counteract Guard or Desperation, can be used when you're on low HP since DR will only do so much long term. For A skills, if you plan to play around Kanto Ally 2, you can use Unity skills. Catch 4 is also fine for mixed phase since Anna's getting plus 10 to all stats. Now, to further dive into Kanto usage, you can use Warp Kanto with regular Far Trace Kanto. They do not stack, the effects just work at the same time to give you more options. Since it's Anna, I also throw in a mention for Escape Route 4. As for the C-skill I wanted to discuss, that is Diva Smoke 3 because of Pathfinder. It requires heavy setup, but if Anna warp contests to safety, she can let Pathfinder help allies follow up on her initiations. You could do this with one of these sweet B skills for free initiations as well. Maybe you realized it, but this is basically what Spring Bernie can do as well. Overall, Bridal Anna is a solid offensive bow cavalier. Just pay her the Dragonflower fee and she can do some solid damage with a couple options to stay safe. Now last up is Harmonic Bridal Tiki and Tiki. We got adult Tiki from Awakening as the bride, and young Tiki from Shadow Dragon, I assume, as the bridesmaid. The twin Tikis will be a colorless armored dragon with 42 HP, 42 attack, 26 speed, 40 defense, and 45 resistance. Tiki has super boons in attack, speed, and resistance, with res being the main one you want for sure. I believe she has the highest base res for all armor units as well. She is not as min-maxed for pure defense and res, but I think that's because Tiki can gain the advantage into other super slow dragons out there by having higher speed. Don't worry though, the Tikis are still gonna be defensive monsters. For ult skills, Harmonic Tiki gets Brave Tiki's B skill, New Divinity, -5 attack and res debuffs, Dragon Wall, and Fall of Denial. Tiki also brings Mirror Stance 3 and Attack and Res Far Save 3, typical armor skills. The Twin Divine Stone has 16 specials and is effective against dragons. If Tiki has more than 25% HP, she gets +5 to all stats, restores 7 HP after combat, and if she has higher res than the foe, she gets a follow-up attack and Dragon Wall's 40% DR. If Tiki has 25% HP, 5 more res than the foe, and the foe uses an offensive special, then she inflicts +1 cooldown on the foe and gains -1 cooldown before the foe's first attack. Harmonic Tiki is very similar to Brave Tiki, including her unique B skill. However, 2 Tikis means 2 Dragon Wall effects, which stack up to 64% DR, and she has healing as well. Tiki gets her built-in Scowl effect, but unlike Brave Tiki, she gets her -1 cooldown before the foe's first attack, and it works with defensive specials. This will mean she cannot initiate with Glimmer like her Brave ult, but Harmonic Tiki is a far save unit, so not a huge issue there. Circling back to her higher speed stat, with Dragon Effectiveness and Omni Breaker, Tiki can double other slower dragons such as Rhea. Obviously maybe not the most common matchup for a far save unit, but it means Tiki can still partially counter other tanky dragons if you need it. Now, what makes this Tiki pretty crazy is that she gets the res version of Armored Beacon. Armored Flow is the exact same special, just going off of 40% resistance and requires Iceberg as your prereq. Young Hector uses Armored Beacon to get unpierceable damage reduction against pre-charge specials, and this is the general usage of this special. However, Tiki has Scowl, which uncharges these pre-charge specials. What this means is that attackers will not pierce her double Dragon Wall DR on the first hit, and if they do ready a special for hit number 2, then Armored Flow kicks in for 40% DR. One of the potential weaknesses of these specials is double special procs from the enemy. Scowl takes care of that. Tiki also has Guard from Mirror Stance, so the enemy needs no guard. She will also get -1 cooldown from her weapon before the enemy's first hit, and the actual attack she takes will grant another -1 cooldown, which will charge Armored Flow. If Tiki can counter, she will retaliate with Armored Flow's extra burst. In essence, enemies basically need to double, counteract Guard, and either survive or avoid Armored Flow as a counterattack. It's disgusting synergy in this kit. To make matters worse, the Harmonize skill grants Resonance Shields, neutralizes foes' field buffs, and neutralizes debuffs on Tiki. It also recharges every 3rd turn. This applies to her allies from Shadow Dragon, New Mystery, and Awakening. More tank perks, and Tiki can stack 2 follow-up denials. This will counter any fast units who are not running offensive enough follow-up. Harmonic Bridal Tiki Squared is basically the colorless armored version of Brave Tiki, but made for pure enemy face savior. You got Omni Breaker, Slang with extra cooldown reduction, double Dragon Wall, and the disgusting Scowl plus Armored Flow combo. I would 100% look out for this combo on other armored dragons. To summarize again, Scowl prevents pre-charge specials, which means no DR piercing for special spiral 4, Deadeye, or lethality users. Before the enemy can double, Tiki can charge Armored Flow for the counterattack, and she has adaptive damage as a far-saving dragon. If the enemy can survive this while doubling and charging special, then Armored Flow still gives 40% DR, and that's assuming you have disabled her 64% DR from double Dragon Wall. The only issue with this base kit is that they gave far save to a unit without distant counter capabilities. You must run the DC Sacred Seal or swap to distant counter in the A slot. From what we discussed, you honestly could drop mirror stance for unity or distance stance. Sure, guard is important, but if no guard is too prevalent, like on units like Legendary Veronica, then you could swap to a better combative skill. Unity would be fun to turn on res debuffs. Res stacking is super important for Tiki as so much of her kit relies on winning those res checks. If you can out-res her, then things will get much easier, but this base kit effectively gives plus 20 res, so good luck with that. Main takeaway from this unit, Scowl plus Armored Flow is concerning. Very interesting in defensive kit, especially now that Armored Flow will synergize with all the res stacking Dragon Wall wants. Tiki could have been tankier, but they seem to want to give her that anti-dragon role of some kind still. Now, if you guys already summoned, I hope you had good luck. Next video, I'll be going over the Tempest Trials, which is almost over, so keep on farming. You can get Grim Robin as the Tempest Trials unit. Thank you for watching. Good to be back, and I will see you in the next one.